Good morning, everybody, and welcome. For those of you who don't know, I'm Reg Brown, and I'm going to chair this meeting. As far as I know, and looking at Keating, Lloyds are not planning a fire today. So if the alarm goes off, it's serious. That's the door to get out. The gentleman on my right says if anybody's mobile phone goes off during the meeting, he will fine them for the benefit of insurance charities. I have to tell you, Peter, that my battery is completely flat. So my phone is being charged up down there, and I have no idea how to put it on silent. So if it goes off, it's mine, and I'll happily contribute to insurance charities again. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th general meeting of the MGAA, I'm in one sense delighted, in another sense sad to say this is going to be my last. I'm standing down after this meeting, so there's part of me that sees that as joy, and another part says, thank goodness, I've done it for so long now, it's about time somebody else had a go. I'm pleased to confirm that the Articles of Association requirement for a quorum has been met, and therefore I declare the meeting properly open. The notice of the meeting was sent out to members. You must have all received it, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Could I just have a show of hands for those who approved that notice, and any against the notice? Thank you very much. The notice is passed. The agenda is now appearing on the screen. It's rather long, and we will work our way through the agenda. Feel free to ask questions at any time. I'll ask you if you've got any questions, but this is your meeting, so please ask questions if you wish. Now, in accordance with the articles, we've held elections for directors to represent full members and supplier members. 6 director places were available for full member directors. We had 12 candidates standing, and I have pleasure in confirming the board is now made up of the following directors, who presumably are on the screen. Could I ask them to stand up and to show their name? Catherine, Mrs. Catherine Bell. Mark Birrell, is Mark here? Hi, Mark. Good morning to you. Charles Earle, who's swanning around New Zealand, is not present at the moment. James Gerry, James. Charles Manchester, a new director. Welcome, Charles. And Jeff Turner. Jeff's there. Also in accordance with the Articles of Association, 2 further directors are appointed, and these are Michael Keating, UK General, who isn't present, and Tom Downey of Penn Underwriting, who is also not present, but they represent the 2 largest MGAs. And I'm delighted to confirm that Keith Stern is the uncontested candidate for the supplier members, so thank you, Keith. I can also confirm that Bill O'Malley of Arch Insurance continues to represent the Market Practitioner members. So those are the elections. I'd like to express this association's thanks to Sian Fisher. Am I going to ask you to stand up, Sian? For Sian's election or appointment as Chief Executive of the Chartered Insurance Institute. I mean, this association, since its very beginning, has had a very close relationship with the Chartered Insurance Institute, although I failed miserably to get Sandy Scott to think about introducing Chartered Managing Agent or Managing General Agent. Well, maybe our new Chief Executive will have a different view, but we'll see. But well done, Sian. We're delighted to congratulate you on that appointment, and we look forward to working closely with you. I'd also like to express our thanks to Nick Hales. Nick is standing down as a director this year. He's been a director for 4 years. And Darren Doherty of Pioneer Underwriting, who's also standing down. Thank you for all of your hard work. Is Darren here?
No.
No, okay. You know, this association would not work if it wasn't for the sterling efforts put in by your I'd also like to thank those members who stood for election but didn't get elected. That's part of the process. That suggests to me that the process is working well. As you've heard, 1 or 2 directors were not re-elected, and that's democracy working. So I hope you stand next time. There's always another time. But thank you for standing, and I'm sorry you missed out on this time. It was a big turnout. Members really got behind it this year, and some of those elected were only marginally in front. So it was a very good election process. We have for some time now operated through board committees, and I'd like now to explain to you the 4 committees. Are they up there on the screen,
Yes,
Jay?
they are.
The 4 committees are there. And we'll now go through them and ask the chairmen of the committee, or substitute chairman for those who aren't here, to give you a short report. So, Catherine, can you talk to us about membership and benefits?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? First of all, I'd just like to say a few thank yous, because without certain people, these committees just don't work. On behalf of my NBC colleagues, many of whom are listed on the previous slide, there's Jeff Turner, Keith Stern, Paula Doolan, Finley Smith, and a big welcome to Jonathan Skinner and Steve Hedge, who are fleshing out that committee with extra expertise, which is super to have new members. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Education for the Profession subcommittee, led by Sean and Jeff Turner on the NBC, who put an awful lot of work into comprising a report which will be fed back to the board in terms of things that we can do to develop education and opportunities within the MGA for our members. I really do want to say a big thank you to Peter, Jane and Teresa for their support. Reg, I think you know behind the scenes how much work goes into every meeting that is held within the MGAA, and without the executive, it just wouldn't work. They work tirelessly to deliver that for us day after day, and I'd like to say a big thank you. And the last one, which is the most important one in a way, is the members, suppliers and market practitioners, because, you know, the feedback and continual support of those parts that make up the MGAA, A, it's critical, but B, it's flourishing. And I just want everybody to know in this room that we really are getting the engagement and information back into our committees, and it works very well. So that's just the backdrop of how our committees work. And if we can go on to this slide, it demonstrates quite aptly a massive growth in terms of membership over the period since the MGAA founded. From 40 full members, we've now gone to 111 members. And even in the face of consolidation within our market, where many members have bought other members or have consolidated a group into a group, even in the face of some 10 changes within our market, we still continue to have a very large membership, representing what I understand to be at least 3.6 billion. And Peter, can I just confirm that you said to me that we've factored in double counting to those figures, haven't we?
Yes, indeed. It's always difficult, but we do, wherever possible, make sure that we're not double counting. And these are very conservative figures as well.
Yes. Can I just say that we're ambitious to grow further and put it out there in terms of where we go next? Businesses are popping up all over the place with who are MGAs, and there are MGAs hidden away that we don't even know exist. And we're ambitious to get to all of those businesses and to embrace them into the association. So if any of you know of any new businesses or businesses who aren't currently a member of the association, would you do your best to funnel them through to us, please? Because that would really help. Move to the next slide, please. We've gone through some of these facts, but I just would like to break it down into some of the activity that makes up those growth figures. Market briefings and events are the sort of lifeblood of the association in terms of engagement with members. Our conference, how many of you, just a show of hands if you wouldn't mind, how many of you were at the conference last year? Gosh, that's good, nearly everybody. It was a warm day. I think I'm correct in saying that it was very hot, but as it was our first conference, I think it was heartwarming to see the turnout and the collaboration of people who came together to make that day happen. Yes, we've got some work to do, and I think there was some fine-tuning, including air conditioning, that needs to be dealt with at the next venue. But that being said, I think the feedback was a resounding success in terms of what it stood for, even if some of the issues need to be improved on in terms of organisation. But we've taken those on board. So that conference, together with the very popular Bieber stand, where we're bringing together new, smaller members to get an opportunity to have an inroad into Bieber, that's going ahead, together with the title for our conference. Sorry, I should have mentioned this, because this is Keith Stern can take responsibility of coming up with this great idea, that the Third Force Awakens is going to be the theme of the conference, by the way. And I hope everybody finds that a nice title. So we've got the Bieber event, and we've got the talent initiatives, 2 talent initiatives this year, one taking place at Lloyd's and one taking place in Manchester. We've got our continuing newsletter, which is our way of getting information back out to members. And we're holding member feedback surveys, and one was circulated last week. I don't know if any of you haven't completed that form, but we'd really appreciate your feedback, because actually every piece of feedback we get, we listen to and we try to act on it. Good slide, thank you. I don't want to take up too much time, but it's very important to let you know how many people we reach. 2 years ago, we were given a piece of information by probably about 5 or 6 members that they said, this association is very London-centric. And it means that you're not inclusive to all of your members. And we really took that very, very seriously. Peter has now attended 10 CII talks all around the UK. He has stood up in those venues, and he has met with and discussed and listened to members. We are going to continue to develop that national coverage. On board with that information, we developed the podcast system, which means that every talk and everything that we do, we podcast. Those podcasts gain CPD points for your teams. So as many of your teams that can engage in the podcasts on the website, please get them to go to the new website. You know, it was launched in 2015, and since 2015 the traffic has exponentially grown. The figures speak for themselves. And what we're noticing is that when you combine a much more dynamic website together with social media, that the key message for all of you attending today is that we are reaching our membership, and we are giving them the opportunity to see exactly what we're doing and to participate in that. I just wanted to round off by thanking Reg, our chairman, for all of the work he has done together with Sean in founding the MGAA some 5 years ago, and to wish them both well in their new roles. And Reg, thank you very much on behalf of the MBC, and Sean too. And I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I think that just about sums it up.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Has anybody got any questions for Catherine? We will move on now, if we may, to the Conduct and Ethics Committee, and I've already mentioned the fact that Charles Earle is swanning around down under, so Nick Hales is going to do the report.
Right, morning everybody. I'm happy today really to ensure that report the activity of actually your Conduct and Ethics Committee. Meetings can confirm that we've met regularly, and in 2015 membership was actually changed with Andre Ford replacing Colin Thompson. Members assistance in the code. The one area that we have pushed is the active engagement of members and renewing members in actually understanding what conduct and ethics is about. So every time someone signs up, you're now going to get something to say, remember, this is what it's all about. We cannot reiterate that more and more. Life is changing. So let's look at the regulatory and MGAA environment in terms of the external influences. FCA, well, their focus has certainly been conduct has continued to build and through the year. It's certainly driving a fundamental shift, we believe, in their requirements. It's no longer let's comply with the rules or we must put a new process in place. That is not the answer to this. It is a fundamental shift from the regulator. The focus has certainly been on customer outcomes. It's now the norm and the noise will only increase. This has been followed by activity from them in terms of, and also activity from Lloyds and CII, surrounding the entire delegation of risks. FCA has produced reviews and conflicts of interest and remuneration during the year. Their other activities are focused on claims laundering. They're all really focused on behavioural conduct. Where on earth was I now? Other activities focused on claims handling, as I said, complaints handling, bribery and corruption risks. If you think about it, they're all focusing on behavioural concerns, the conduct and ethical nature of an MGA or the lack of it. Lloyds has developed new conduct standards with the significant consequences for cover holders and sub-delegation structures. The CII continues to review and amend its own code of ethics. BIBA has now started consulting its members on whether they want a code of conduct under the headline of Pathway to Raised Standards, and I'm sure their membership will say yes, and then BIBA will want to get involved. From a wider perspective, we retain a connection with the Institute of Business Ethics. It certainly gives us a wider focus than just in our small little world. And in their world, we've seen other things: false advertising claims, sales staff practices, ill-judged incentives, bribery and corruption, supplier abuse, bullying over payment terms, all things that can affect our industry at some point. It is clear to us that greater board-level involvement is a must in setting, monitoring and maintaining the company's ethical values. So what's your committee been up to? Well, as I said earlier, we're growing our external links with the Institute of Business Ethics, and a key commentator on conduct and ethics in insurance is a chap by the name of Duncan Minty and his consultancy, and we'll be seeing and hopefully doing a lot more of them this year. We've produced articles for newsletters and the trade press surrounding MGA activity, principally around managing the interests of all stakeholders in the businesses. We've managed an MGA response to any conduct and ethics issues involving our membership. But to be clear, please, our role is to remain focused on a measured reaction to situations that attract a complaint under our code. We are not an ethics auditor, nor are we resourced to be one. But having said that, the complaint activity was actually low. In fact, we've only had 2 complaints drawn to our attention this year, and they were either just have no factual support for a breach of our code having occurred by the member and were speedily resolved in conjunction with the member. And we do monitor the press activity on the MGA sector and on any unethical activity because we can learn from all going on, and recent press has certainly dictated unethical activity from non-MGA members. So finally, I think the challenges for everyone is that for everyone, please be careful with the language you use and to not confuse being compliant with regulatory and legal strictures with achieving an ethical standard of behaviour. Complying, perhaps close to the line of the rules, is not the same as behaving ethically. To be effective in today's business environment, compliance needs ethical support. And of course, the unknown factor for us all will be the European conundrum. All game could change as a result of either Brexit or non-Brexit. Thank you very much. And once again, can I also reiterate the comments made by Catherine earlier? I would just like to thank the executive and the board for all of the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. Conduct and ethics can be seen as a very dry subject, but we believe at this moment in time it's actually the focus is going to be much higher for it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions of Nick? Moving on then to the Legal and Regulatory and Compliance Committee, which is chaired by James Gerry. James is approaching the rostrum.
Thank you, Reg. Gosh, conduct and ethics sounding exciting. I thought legal, regulatory and compliance was, and I think many of you have heard me say that I've said to my wife, when I do come back in my next life, I am not working in a regulated industry. But the committee activities have been very, very busy this year, and I'm not going to read the slide. You can read it for yourselves. But I thought maybe it'd be helpful if I gave you a brief summary about what I think are some of the most relevant issues with regard to the committee. The first is just looking again at the past year, just to clarify who the members are in addition to me and to Peter Stadden. Paul Upton and Graham Elliott are representing members. David Coop, E3 Legal, EC3 Legal, Jonathan Houston from Grant Thornton, and Norman Hughes, who heads up Compliance Management Services. And I think that the composition of the committee, and it will be changing a bit going forward, represents quite a good and balanced cross-section of experience, of interests, and I'd like to really thank the members of the committee for all that they have done to make the work of that committee so effective and efficient. As I see it, the key role of our committee for our members is to really look through and anticipate not only what the future regulatory developments are going to be, but what the key ones are for our members. There's so much stuff that we go through, but our job, as I see it, is to assess what is really important for you. What do we need to be informing you about? What do we need to be telling you about? And then what representation do we want to make to our regulators on behalf of the association? Indeed, what are issues that we think are better not spoken about? So if I can put it this way, I think our job is really to try to sort through all of the junk and all of the noise and try to bring to you the stuff that we think really matters. And we routinely meet with both the FCA and with Lloyd's, and while dealing with our regulator, any regulator, I could argue, is never perfect, I do believe that we are reaching a position of mutual respect and also increased understanding. And I have to say to you, we do now, I believe, have a distinct voice, and that voice is being heard. Just in way of just a brief encouragement, I've had some situations where the regulator has actually approached me on an off-the-record basis, seeking some insights and help on some issues that they're dealing with. And there is indeed a very constructive dialogue that is now taking place between us and the regulator. Some of you will know from some of my presentations that I kind of like to joke around a little bit, and it probably is because it covers all of my other inadequacies, but one of the reasons why I'm even mentioning that is because, again, on the relationship issue, I do want you to think that while I think the FCA view me as having a little bit of a humorous side to it, I think they also know quite clearly when I'm bringing matters to them that we don't consider to be at all humorous. We did have a little bit of a go of them, Peter and I did, over the meeting that we had with them back in October in terms of the nature of their presentation, because we had given them pretty clear guidance as to what we expected of it, and it didn't go the way that we wanted. Our next meeting with the FCA for members is on the 10th of October. You'll be getting a note about it, but I can assure you they've been given the message that it's going to take a different format. Now, of all the forums that the association runs, the compliance forum is the most popular. We meet every 2 months. We have an average attendance of just about 20 people, and sometimes, indeed, it's many more people than that. And at that forum, and through our compliance newsletter and our regulatory calendar, as I said before, what we are attempting to do is try to inform you about the regulatory developments that matter to your businesses. And we'll be keeping a keen eye on the regulatory developments in 2016. This is from my own personal perspective, but I think that the focus of our committee will therefore include the FCA's continuing review of outsourcing and delegated authorities. It covers a whole range of organizations, a whole range of services, but MGAs are in the middle of that. We're also going to be looking to continue to engage with the FCA as we watch the sort of outworking of the Lloyd's coverholder audit and control regime. It has been a problem for a lot of our members. We want to stay on top of that. And as many of you know, the IUA is looking at developing their own position with regards to oversight of delegated authorities. So we want to take a very keen interest in that activity. Now, irrespective of the in-out referendum in June, you'll know that both the existing European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority and the Insurance Distribution Directive are primarily focused on protecting consumers and also on bringing greater harmonization of processes, reporting, rules, products, and everything across the whole of the EU. Now, our association has already made formal representations to the regulators and addressed questions from both the authority and the FCA over things like product development and distribution, and we will continue to do so. I think that it's going to be interesting because the rules and regulations, many of them come into effect over the next 24 months, but it'll be fascinating to see how that unfolds with the Brexit question. And then perhaps in addition, as you'll see, the committee also deals with not just compliance issues or regulatory issues, but also legal issues. And the rollout of the Insurance Act and how that will play out in the claims arena, along with what I think many of you will have seen, the recent High Court decision on the Allenfield case, a decision that effectively the judge decided that CAS was no longer fit for purpose. Those are just two examples of some of the key legal developments that our committee has taken a keen interest in, and we will be continuing to monitor ongoing relevant legal developments. Now, there's considerably more that I could be telling you about what the committee has been doing and will be doing, but I hope that this is a brief overview, helps to give you a flavor of what we're focused on and what our actions and activities have been on engaging with on your behalf. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions or comments. If not, again, I'm sounding like Donald Trump, but I don't know what Donald Trump sounds like. But Bill, can you tell us?
Fix your hair.
I don't know what Donald Trump said. We're not building any walls. We're breaking them down, and we are here that you might be able to come speak to us about any issues that concern you on the regulatory or compliance side. Thank you.
Okay, building bridges. James.
Building bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, we now move on to the Executive Finance Committee, which up until now has been chaired by Peter Hubbard. Peter has now left UK General and has retired, and so I'd like to express this association's thanks to him for all the hard work he has done and the guidance he's given us in his role as Chairman of the Executive Finance. But we're very lucky. Jonathan Clark is going to appear in his stead. So, Jonathan, please.
Good morning, everybody. Well, from the high water membership and benefits, we've gone through progressively drier presentations, as Nick and James have been kind to point out, and we're hitting, I think, what you might call the riverbed now for finance. The team for the last year has been Peter Hubbard, Graham Ward and myself, and I think we were selected on the basis we could count. And I mention that because I think it's very easy in a not-for-profit where there are modest sums in management by comparison to much of what we might see in the business, not to apply the rigour that is demanded of managing these sums of money. And I think it speaks well for our executive that they're happy to submit themselves monthly to review, to challenge. We look at variances, they're reported, and they're properly debated. And I think that that's something that all of us should applaud, and I think we should applaud the fact that the board put that in place at the outset. We all have data we can understand. Having yesterday attended somebody else's finance committee, and I have to congratulate that particular body on the complete inability I had to understand a word of what was in the finances. I have to again thank Jane and the team for the work they put together initially, and Peter, Teresa, for keeping that in check for us. I've appreciated working with Peter for the last few years, and something I would just sort of say as a very general observation. One of the reasons that I enjoy being part of groups like our committee is you get an unusual opportunity to work with people that you've always wanted to work with, but you were not sure you wanted to join their businesses. Not that UKGI isn't a fantastic business, let me be clear. But as a claims person, one has to try and find where one can be. So I'd like to thank Peter on behalf of myself and Graham for the leadership he's given us this last year. And we look forward to meeting our next chairman. When I look at the terms of reference for the Finance Committee, I see 14 functions that we're meant to undertake. And so let me just highlight 2 or 3 of them. Well, firstly, I think it's fair to say that monthly review, as I've said, it's a challenging session, it's worthwhile, and I think it's important, and we should sustain that. Secondly, we've concentrated on making sure that we have some reserves, some working capital. I'm a very big believer in an NFP, that you should make sure that that's dealt with and managed properly. And again, thanks to the team for making sure that's in place. We provide some support for the executive, looking at risk registers, what are the main risks, and again, providing challenge to that. We've got a very simple disaster recovery plan, and we now have to update it as we've moved. We're part of a structure of managing the executive, and again, I think we're delighted that the executive take the questions we ask in good humour and respond with an openness and a transparency that I think is to be admired. I think it reflects well on them, as I say, and I think it reflects well on the committee and the relationship we have with the board. We've moved, as of course you'll be aware, and so again, really just to conclude, I'd like to thank David Matcham and the IUA for the support that they give us. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I think you'll find that the accounts are there and they speak for themselves. Thank you.
Any questions of Jonathan?
He's running like crazy.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the directors' reports. And they've outlined the important work that each of the committees have been involved in. But at this stage, I would also like to thank my fellow directors for chairing those committees and for the members of the various committees who are not directors but have been volunteering their time. Much appreciated, and they have equally contributed to the work of those committees, so thank them for that. We move on now to the annual report and accounts, which I presume has been sent to everybody.
It was. Went out with the invite.
And you've all had chance to look at them and analyse them and dissect them. Today's meeting has been called to receive the Association's annual report and accounts for the financial year ended 31st of August 2015, together with the Directors' reports on those accounts, and to confirm the appointment of Butler & Co. As accountants to the MGAA. So could I now move the motion for accepting the accounts and appointing butlers as accountants to the MGAA? All those in favour, please show. Are there any against? Thank you. Motion carried. Slide 13 is where I generally switch off. We've heard about dryness so far, but in my book there's nothing drier than articles of association. This association, since its beginning, has had to keep changing its association, its articles, to move with the times, none more so than the changes we're proposing to make now. David Coop, who we relied on heavily and who will explain anything you need to explain, describes it as evolution, not revolution. So I can go through the changes to the articles if you wish. They're not significant. We've dealt with the two largest members and how to define them, how to calculate their income and that kind of housekeeping stuff. We've changed the timing of the election of directors because we found ourselves in a position where all of the elected directors were going to step down at the same time, which seemed to us to be a bit of a nonsense. So we've started having a rolling election process. We've dealt with how long the Market Practitioner members should serve, how long the Supplier members on the board should serve. And the board can appoint anybody that it feels would assist and help promote the business of the MGAA, whether they are themselves MGAs or whether they're just insurance professionals who we think can help us in our cause. We've also dealt with the election of the chairman because, as I've told you, I'm stepping down as chairman. I've stayed out of this debate because it's not for me as the retiring chairman to dictate what should happen under the auspices of the new board. So the new board will decide itself who its chairman should be. It will have the authority, if it wishes, to go outside of the association and invite somebody from without. And we've put in an ability, if they wish, to pay a paltry sum of $10,000 a year if they wish. I can't imagine anybody would be tempted to do it for 10 grand a year, and I've done it for nothing. So nothing is about the right price for me. But at least the board will have the ability to do what it thinks proper in the future. So have you got any questions about the Articles of Association? No, lots of heads going like that. So thank you for that. Could I ask one of you to propose adoption of those Articles of Association as an ordinary resolution? Thanks, Catherine. Okay.
Seconder?
A seconder?
Nick.
Okay, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Can I have a show of hands for those in favour of the adoption of the articles? Thank you. Any against? Thank you very much.
Special resolution.
We're right down there now.
Special.
The bit about the chairman is actually a special resolution.
Oh, the election.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
So the question about could I ask? Yes, the election and possible payment of a chairman has got to be a special resolution. So could I ask a member to propose the special resolution in regards to the appointment of chairman?
Charles Manchester.
Charles. A seconder? Bill. And those in favour? Any against? Thank you very much. Thank you. If you have any questions about those articles and the issues arising, then please say so. Peter will now talk about future plans.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as the Chairman said, we have slightly changed the articles with regard to the board, and what we're also doing is planning a 3-year strategy. We had an away day in January, and that's beginning to be pulled together under the chairmanship of Charles Earle. So we will be in a position to have a strategy going through to 2019, and I think everybody will see that. And we need to have a vision here as well. The slide actually also shows you that we will continue our debate and discussions with MPs and various government departments. For those in the motor, they would have heard of the VNUC case, which is Slovakian, and we're very much involved with the Department for Transport on that, and they're very open to come and talk to us, and we're getting people in the room who are real anoraks with regard to motor insurance, and it's a very, very good debate. And I'd like to thank those who are actually making themselves available for inclusion with this. And we do the same with Treasury, and we do the same with HMRC. So we're going to continue that. Two things that obviously do bubble around, one is Paul Re and another one is Flood Re. Again, we're having very good dialogue with Flood Re, primarily because we are seeing issues with regard to seeding the risks. So we're making sure that, first of all, the base cost is reasonable, and we're making sure that the seeding is not too problematical or too cumbersome, so that where appropriate, those risks can be ceded. We obviously have relationships with other trade associations, and we will continue that, both within the UK but also outside the UK. We talk to our friends in America, MGAA, also down in Australia, and we have other areas as well, Canada. Although they don't have a formal one, we do talk to MGAs from Canada and also to close Europe. So, irrespective of Brexit, we're continuing our relationships with these people, and we'll continue as we go forward. Primarily, of course, one of the big issues that we need to address is the reputation of our sector. And I think, by and large, over the last couple of years, we've started to show that, and we've started to have respect. As James said, the regulator now gets the argument. They understand the difference between an MGA and a broker with a binder. And that's taken a lot of time. On the educational front, I'm always a believer, the more I've learnt, the less I know. And I think it's a great way of going forward. And I'm thrilled to see that Sean, A, is in the audience, and B's taken over the CII, and that's only got to be good for our sector. So on the educational side, we've got to push that one forward as well. And as Catherine said during her presentation, we talk about the social media. It's a great way of seeing what's going on out there. It's a great way of picking up information, and it's a great way of communicating. But we use LinkedIn in a business relationship, not to send silly photos. So please engage with us, work with us, support us, and if you've got any comments, we're here to help.
Thank you, Peter. Has anybody got any questions of Peter arising out of his words? Okay, well...
Could you mind if I just say something? Obviously, as far as established institutions are concerned, obviously MGAs have come around relatively late. So what you find is quite a lot of industry associations and bodies where there isn't representation at the moment from the MGA.
Sorry, Sean. Actually, you'd probably hear me anyway, couldn't you? But anyway. So just to declare an interest that obviously from the CII's perspective, where we've got faculties or committees where we would currently have representation from insurers and brokers, I will be actually working with Peter to ensure that we do actually get representation from the MGAAs onto those committees, because it can seem a bit boring, but actually in aggregate they do influence how people see things. And also when we're producing examinations and learning materials, obviously we need to have the MGAA side of that represented, because at the moment what the CII produces is still quite polarised between what they produce for brokers and what they produce for insurers, and some of this stuff obviously sits now in the middle, with particular reference to MGAs. All right, so if you don't see any progress on that during the next year, then when I turn up to the AGM next year, please say something, and I'll get on it. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. As the slide now says, general discussion or any other business. So if there's anything else you wish to raise, now is your chance. And I can't see any hands shooting up, so I will therefore close the general meeting. And the general meeting is now closed. But I would like to thank the board and the executive particularly, and all our consultants and advisors. Dave Matcham at the RUA. When we were starting, I decided we needed a home, and we looked around for a suitable home. Dave opened his arms for us, and we've been very, very happy being a tenant of Dave Matcham at the RUA. He's been a brilliant landlord, so many thanks to Dave Matcham. David Coop, the legal brains behind the association, got involved very early on, drafted the first articles of association, which we've had to change several times since. But we thank you, David, for your great help. Norman Hughes of Compliance Management Services, very great help to the association. And Alex Wise of Concise Public Relations. They've all served us extremely well. So I would like to thank them. I'd also like to thank Lloyd's, Keith, for allowing us to use this incredible venue. I have great fondness with this room. I studied part of my law degree in this very room when it was actually a library. And I remember coming into Lloyd's when I had no right to come into Lloyd's, but the security was very different in those days. You just say hi to the guy on the gate and in you go. And the library waiter in here used to look after me very well, and I'd get the books out and read my law and all the rest of it. So this is a second home to me, this library, and I love the place. So thanks to Lloyd's for allowing us to use this, Keith, please. If you haven't signed the attendance sheet already, would you please do so before you leave? I suspect, is coffee still being served?
I believe so, yes.
Coffee will still be there if you wish to have some more coffee. And if you're at a loose end tonight, the Insurance Orchestra is performing at St John Smith Square. I will be there. It would be nice to see some of you there. But anyway, so thank you very much. Peter, I think it's over to you now, is it?
Indeed, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, as Reg has previously said, this is going to be his last duty as Chairman of the MGAA. For my part, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Reg and the founding members, Sean and the other people as well. And I know that without their dedication, their commitment and their drive, I don't think that we would be in a position that we are today. Obviously, the board has played a huge instrumental part, and Reg has been absolutely fantastic, both as an advocate within the MGA board, but also outside. And I'm sure that his wife's going to see more of him, but at some stage you probably want to get rid of him. So I know he's going to pop up every now and again. But ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in thanking Reg? So I think we've got tea and coffees outside, so please stay around, have a chat with the board, and any questions, please come and see us.